Me and Cooper are the worst, most sucker MCs in the world. We have bad breath, we smell bad, and everybody that we've dated cheats on us because we're not good partners. We have bad teeth and they're rotting, and we're poor, and we come from a bad family, and there's photos of our girlfriends sucking other guys' dicks.
Yeah, anytime you have to burp, always burp into the mic.
Outlaw.
That's a standard on podcasts
Yeah,
for years.
If you're eating food, you got to go munch, munch, munch into the microphone.
We should definitely promise to never eat food on the podcast.
Should we?
Yeah, I don't want. Have you ever listened to a podcast where they eat food?
Yes.
It's the worst fucking thing ever. Because it's like a fun story, and then they're just like, you ever?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Sometimes
their belly's like making noises and shit.
I like that.
Yeah.
If you get a belly rumble on a podcast, that's people. Any body sound that you can't really stop is fine.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I'll watch like
the sound of you throwing up. What if there was a podcast that was like old Rome? So they got these little. They're just eating a big massive meal, and they got the little throw up things you can into.
Was that a thing in Rome?
Yeah, they would eat a bunch and then they'd throw up into these like spittoon things. Maybe that's not true. Maybe that's just television telling me.
Yeah, where'd you see that?
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that's true. I'm pretty sure I've seen that before.
It's really not a strong empire if they're all bulimic. That doesn't. They don't
yeah.
sound tough at all.
Yeah.
That sounds more Greek. But I guess, I don't know, Rome was pretty obsessed with their image. That's so funny,
Yeah.
all those tough warriors.
Rome was getting like Cosmopolitan magazines.
Yeah, all those.
They're like throwing up and just knowing how to blow each other really well.
Just a Roman warrior in a bathroom, like, just a minute, I'm fine. Just purging, it has like esophageal.
I'm taking a puke.
Just
puke
esophageal
piss.
tearing. Jesus Christ.
That's how we got to start the podcast, talking about throwing up and boogers. Let's talk about boogers real quick. What's the deal with
Should
them?
that be the thing? Like, is there a podcast that's just like gross as fuck? Is that, I mean, obviously there's so many podcasts where people say disgusting things, but is there one where it's just like
a roundtable discussion of boogers?
Like, it's all around horrible, because if you watch the video, you're like just like seeing like you eat my boogers and I'm eating your boogers, and like if you're listening to it, you're just listening to the sounds of it, so it's like it's all horrible.
Oh yeah, it's like that thing I just described, but it's a table full of boogers and poop, and then there's a little spittoonful, and you puke in it, and then they suck each other's puke out of it.
Yeah, so for the podcast, we fill this table with just gross things from our body.
Oh yeah,
and then eat it, and then puke into a bucket. And
a book that's like how to blow your nose.
Yeah.
And we're just reading it. We did a review of how to blow your nose on the podcast.
And then we burn it. And then we burn the book on how to blow your nose. We're like,
yeah. We schedule a book burning. That's the live podcast. Is we're just burning books like Everybody Poops, How to Wipe Your Ass.
Well, we're burning books on like that are about hygiene and like medicine.
Yeah,
and, like books on like how bacteria travels. We're like, fuck that shit. And we're like, all other sciences we're cool with, but we don't believe in germs.
Yeah. We're throwing toilet paper on the fire. We're just like, we fuck this shit.
Yeah.
I like walking around dirty.
We finally get enough money to get like a podcast set, and it's just a room filled with shit. It's just a horrible, disgusting room. I'd like that. Those would be good clips.
Oh, yeah.
Because if people saw us eating each other's boogers, they'd be like...
California needs to be stopped.
Yeah. We could really just take on every other podcast. We'd be like, you think you're so wild, Legion of Skanks? Yeah? Do you guys eat each other's piss and shit? You fucking pussies. Do you drink each other's piss? No, it's not sexual. It's because we're gross. That's why we do it. It's to be gross.
Yeah. Oh, you guys talk about rape to be edgy. Yeah, we're eating rape juice.
Our theme song is just like the sounds of surgery. It's just the sounds of a guy pissing and shitting while having surgery.
It's the sound of somebody like doing surgery, and then you listen to somebody taking a dump, implying they did surgery to shit in a guy's chest cavity.
Yeah, we started GoFundMe to do
to
surgery
get the
on a
butthole
guy.
on our foreheads.
To get buttholes on our foreheads, and then to open up a guy's chest cavity and shit in it. One of our fans, the top tier of the Patreon that we'll make eventually, will be that we get to cut open your chest and piss and shit in it.
Yeah.
That's our signature.
Our current biggest fan is Count Dracula.
Yeah.
Count Dracula loves drinking blood, which is gross as shit.
But that motherfucker has no friends, so, like, it's not really getting the reach out there.
Yeah. He keeps trying to ask women to watch the podcast.
Yeah.
Like the women he's possessed.
Yeah.
And they're just like, hey, we're possessed, but we're still women.
Yeah.
We don't like watching two guys talk about boogers and butt sex and stuff.
Yeah, we still don't like this, even though we're possessed by your evil aura. We still don't want to listen to these two gross guys. The problem is Dracula, the way he's trying to get people to listen to our podcast is he invites one man from very far away to his castle at night. And then he tells them about the podcast. But that reach is slow.
And the guy writes a big book of letters, and then we burn the letters.
Of course.
Yeah, because that shit's fucked up that he's talking about how Dracula's messed up.
What if every time you finished a book, you burned it?
Yeah.
You're like, all right, that's enough.
What about
of
a
that.
Nazi who burns every book he reads, and then he's like, he finishes Mein Kampf, and he's like, what do I do?
Oh, like the guy that before all the Nazi stuff just loved burning books.
Oh, yeah.
But then he falls in love with Nazism. I mean, I don't know.
We're a what if podcast.
Yeah.
What if Dracula loved this show? What if we burned every single book?
What if we the guy that just tries to get into reading and he just can't. And when
a
he
guy
doesn't,
that's never heard of book burning, but every time he sees a book, he's like, should I like burn this?
look at all those dry pages.
Wait
Yeah.
a minute. What if these were on fire?
Yeah, every time I'm reading a book, I'm like, I could start a fire so easily with this shit. Why the fuck am I reading about Abraham Lincoln? I haven't read that book in a while.
Yeah, damn, we have no content.
Well, I've just been watching a lot of YouTube videos.
On Abraham Lincoln?
No, more about like the last 60 years of America and what we do and shit like that.
Why are you lying? You send me so many clips that's like, this is a monster truck.
Oh, well, no.
Yeah, of course you're watching monster truck shit all day.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying I'm smart. On YouTube.
By the last 60 years of monster trucks, that's what you're watching. And you're like, I'm a history buff.
Well, because it's not what you think.
Yeah.
Monster trucks is not what it looks like on the surface level. Because monster trucks all started with the OSS, you know? And then it morphed into CIA, FBI, and this current thing we have today. Which is, it's not, you know.
That's why the word
none of that's
monster
real.
is in there.
None of that's real. It's the same thing with
you
wrestling.
remember the monster truck epidemic in South Central in the 80s and 90s.
I mean, do you know?
I remember when monster trucks were called ready cars.
Me too.
Yeah.
See what happened? I mean, people don't know that JFK authorized 1,000 monster trucks to be dropped into Cuba
Yeah.
to rampage over the houses.
To
and
run over
defeat
all the
Castro.
pigs.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why it's called the Bay of Pigs.
Yeah, it's a Bay. People didn't know. Actually, Gravedigger was there. They tried to assassinate Castro with Gravedigger. What are the other monster trucks? I can envision one. Do you know any monster truck names? I feel like you should.
I should, yeah.
But you're not a monster truck guy. Have you ever been to one of those shows?
No, I haven't actually.
They have
I've been to
them in LA.
NASCAR when I was a kid. I went to NASCAR with my dad.
Yeah. NASCAR's cool.
Yeah, NASCAR is cool. Yeah, it's funny coming here and there's guys that got into NASCAR late into life.
Yeah.
And they're like, I know everything about NASCAR, and it's like, nerd.
Yeah.
It's like I would go and watch shit go fast.
Yeah. No, that's what's awesome. Our friend Nate is a beautiful autistic man that got into NASCAR within the last couple of years. But it's
Yeah.
very funny because, like...
He knows way more about NASCAR than anybody I knew growing up. that
Oh, totally.
Went to NASCAR every week.
The only thing people you know about NASCAR is that they're going fast as fuck. And they just go to the track whenever they come to reaffirm that they are going very fast.
Oh, yeah.
And then,
but
you know-
they're just like, I'm going to go and make sure they're not going slow this time.
It's also a very emotion-based sport.
Oh,
Where,
yeah.
like I've watched like documentaries on it because I just like watching sports documentaries, and a lot of like every NASCAR driver in their interview, they always say the same thing where they're like, I don't give a fuck about being friends with any of these guys. And it gets to the fifth guy to the point that it's like, yeah, all of you just hate each other. This isn't like a thing about you. And then it's just like motherfuckers just like I don't know. It's like they'll hate people, but like sometimes they're the greatest drivers ever. Like I think a lot of people hate Denny Hamlin,
Oh, yeah?
but like he's an amazing driver. You know, or like people hate Joey Logano. It's like a very personality thing.
Yeah.
Motherfuckers love Kyle Larson still.
What if we came on the podcast and we're like, hey, we like comedy. We don't want to be friends with each other. We don't want to be friends with Louis C.K. We don't be friends with nobody. We don't want to be friends with George Carlin.
Sometimes I feel that way, and then I remember that that's like the absolute worst way to act. Because there's a couple guys that do that, and even if they're very famous, you don't necessarily see their career get worse, but you just see they just sort of drift out.
Oh, yeah.
Into kind of an island where they just, like, rappers can do that, and it's cool. Where
it'd be so funny, though, if one of the people we know got famous that was like, I hate every stand-up. And then just watching them continue to hate everybody.
I mean, I'm such a hater, and I have so many fantasies that I would never do it, and I would never even have the chance to, but it would be so funny if you were a very famous stand-up to go on, like, Tiger Belly or some other huge stand-up podcast and just be like, I fucking hate all stand-ups. Like, fuck everyone who does stand-up. Fuck them. I don't want to work with them. Stay the fuck away from me.
I don't have fantasies.
But it's a horrible life.
Yeah.
Because then you show up at a comedy club and nobody talks to you. You have no friends.
Yeah.
You just, like, go up and do stand-up and then go home.
All your friends are, like, famous porn stars.
Yeah.
That's how it gets eventually. You get far enough in stand-up, you start being friends with low-level porn stars.
Yeah, the only way to stay sane as a stand-up is you just keep hanging out with your ugly friends who you've had for years. You just keep hanging out, and hopefully they're also successful, and you just stay in a nice pod.
But it's so unlikely your friends will be successful statistically.
Definitely. But I do think if you use each other the way we're trying to, then you raise the chances. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Because sometimes
I love using my friend Cooper, dude.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like, you hear about how, like, very famous comics have been friends since they were, like, open micers. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of like, oh, that's, like, crazy. But the thing is like, well, those people were probably going to do it anyway. But also being in that group, I think, drove them to be better. Because
for sure.
You see some groups and you're like, oh, all those people, like, never do mics, but they all hang out. And it kind of, it's like kind of like, I like to try and hang out with people that make me feel like a piece of shit and lazy. Mm-hmm. Of just sort of like, oh, well, that's their standard. And if I want to hang out with them, I'd like to be at the same standard.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's always like, you always fear, like, well, if I don't make it, it's going to be very hard to be friends with anybody I know who does. Because they're busy, you know? And it's like, it's just hard to maintain that friendship. If your friend is touring across the world and then you're just like, yeah, I work at Starbucks, like, you guys can't hang out anymore.
I sleep till 2.
I like to think you can kind of push each other if you get a good core of people together. But also, chances are,
We were talking about, like, how we both sleep for a long time, and it's just funny that a lot of the most successful people we know have such rigid, just waking up schedules.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's my thing. Is like, sometimes I'll, like, worry about my career, and then I'm like, Cooper, you can't wake up at 8. You haven't done it in years. And it's like, all this shit about you wanting to be somewhere is like, fucking start waking up first. Like,
oh, yeah. That's like the most important thing is to make sure you don't stay up till 4 playing a video game where you pretend to be a border patrol agent for 3 hours.
Is that what you've been doing?
Yeah.
Really? What, is this like a PC game?
Yeah, it's like a PC game. Well,
it like Call of Duty?
No. It's like what's it called? Papers, Please. I don't even know if it's if you consider a border patrol agent, but it's like you stamp documents. I beat it. I beat it because it's only like 4 hours long.
Wait, does it like look realistic or is it like cartoon?
It's like 8-bit.
Oh. And you're just, what is the game? To stamp documents as fast as you can?
You stamp documents and you decide whether or not they get accepted or denied into the country, which is fake. A fictional country. Oh,
so you're like, you're like an auditor of immigrants?
Yeah.
You're deciding if they get to live the dream of whatever country you're in.
Oh, yeah.
You just do that for hours.
4 hours.
Yeah. Talk about escaping. I mean, yeah. I do shit like that too. I'll play stuff that's like fucking stupid. I have a game on my phone that I like delete and try and not have, but it's like just a very in-depth life simulator. Where you can have, like, there's, like, hundreds of jobs, careers, and, like, different businesses and, like, schools. And just, you can sort of do, like, almost whatever you want in the game. But it's just, like, clicking buttons, making decisions. But sometimes in the game, you end up in jail. And I was explaining that to somebody. And she said, and she was like, I was like, yeah, sometimes you end up in jail. And she was like, so, like, sometimes you're just in jail in the game and you just keep playing the game of just being in jail. And I'm like, yes. And I didn't realize how fucking stupid that was. She's like, you go home, you pretend to be in jail. And I was like, well, there's a lot of stuff you can do in jail. You can escape from jail. Maybe you can serve your sentence, get out, and then, but yeah. It's like, it's crazy how you'll do something that's objectively not fun.
Oh, yeah, I've been reading about interactive fiction.
You're also playing like an evil game, which is kind of funny. Like, it's not just boring, it's a little like fucked up. Like,
well, the game knows it's fucked up.
How do you, yeah, of course. How do you win?
You just get to all of the end of the 31 days, and you either escape from the country with your family, or you escape alone, and then your family's fucked, or you go to jail. You go to jail for working with a terrorist group, which you can do in the game, or you just keep doing your job and you don't work with the terrorist group at all.
I didn't even know there was a terror group involved. I like that game a lot. That's one thing the game I'm playing could have is a terrorist group.
It's called Papers, Please. I'm sure people that have watched this have played it.
Yeah, that's probably the demo.
Yeah,
for this, right? Guys that watch this also pretend to deny access to countries in their off time. Like, Jesus Christ.
That's the thing with
your hobby is like a fucked up job. Like a job that the people who have it like takes a mental toll.
I'm done with the game, dude.
Well,
I finished it. I might play it again. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's really fucked up to beat it. It's more fucked up to be like, I might have to go back.
There's a mode where if you get the right ending, you get to just do endless mode. If you get like ending number 20 or something, and that means you just get to keep doing it forever.
Jesus Christ. So the biggest prize is just like a prison forever.
Oh, yeah.
Just like, yeah, you can never stop doing this now if you want. Jesus Christ, that's fucked up. You know,
but I was reading about interactive fiction, which is just video games, but you take the game part out, where it's just you're making choice. You're basically reading a choose-your-own-adventure novel, and then you're like, oh, that's sick. What if I wasn't having fun when I was playing a video game? What if I felt no power at all?
Oh, so just multiple choice. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
That's honestly why I like the game I was talking about, because it's pretty much that. I like it because I like want to envision a life of like, oh, I'll start a spy agency and kill a bunch of people and try and become the president while also doing that and stuff. And it's like, it's that, except instead of multiple choice, it's like whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of that. Remember when? Do you ever? You remember when Squid Games did like the interactive episode?
No, but I didn't know. I knew that. What's it called?
Or no, not Squid Games. Black Mirror.
Black Mirror. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just kind of boring. And
yeah.
It was just like, why didn't you just write it? I remember doing it, and I was like, yeah, I like it more when they just write a good episode. This sucks either way.
I looked at like video game. There's an award for video games with the best writing, and that one won the first one ever.
What?
Like the episode of Black Mirror, and there's like, it's like, this is not a video game.
Well, yeah, why? They called it a video game?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a kind of a stretch.
Oh, yeah.
That's weird.
Well, they just want to give it to everything. Video games hate themselves for some reason.
What do you mean?
Well, they just like, they just want to give their awards and praise towards games that are like not that fun. They're just interesting artistically.
Yeah, I always think that's a little weird. I think I have too many pretensions about video games being fucking nerd shit.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with like games where it's like, yeah, it's like a scary game and you walk around in the dark for hours. I'm just kind of like, yeah, I mean, I like GTA because you can just walk around and do whatever you want.
I feel like video games like they're too like mainstream now to be what they were. Dungeons and Dragons is still, dork loser shit. But I feel like video games are kind of they're trailing into being mainstream entertainment.
Well, yeah, it seems weird. I mean, I totally get why it would be idiotic of me to say it's dumb, but it's interesting when they're like, it's an art piece. And you're like, I guess it is. This takes like fucking years to make. But
oh, yeah.
It's also better when you're just a guy with a gun. It's
yeah, why are there guys with guns games are not... They're not held to a high enough standard of shit.
I think they are now. I mean, think about like GTA 6. It's taken like 5 years.
Yeah, but Rockstar's the only people that are making games like that.
Well, I think because it costs so much fucking money.
Yeah, and Rockstar has so much goddamn money.
Yeah.
They have like the biggest entertainment release of all time, and then also like the third biggest entertainment release of all time. So like,
we
made
should
more
work
money.
for them.
Oh yeah, why
How
are
do we
doing
make this
stand-up?
a Rockstar podcast?
Oh yeah, hey. Well, a lot of people have quit.
What about
So we
this?
could be the new like head guy.
We give them the audio to our podcast every week.
Mhm.
They take it, animate us GTA style, walking around LA, killing people while saying all this stuff. So we're just walking around and just being like, yeah, I like eating boogers and piss and shit. That's fun.
Yeah, that's some Columbine
It's just
type shit.
okay. What about this? It's just GTA. You can control everything, actually, except the whole time our podcast is playing through the mouths of the people. So it's always you and your friend.
Yeah.
It's got to be two people, so it's two people talking.
I mean, eventually there's going to be a sort of GTA where you're going to be talking, and then your character's going to be making the mouth movements that you're making over the fucking.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's obviously not because I didn't say it, but it feels like they could just do that now.
Hmm? Yeah, probably. Isn't it
I don't
wild that I don't know anyone that has a PS5. I know one person that has a PS5, and they don't live in LA.
Where do they live? Shangri-La? Dubai? Saudi Arabia? Are they a prince?
Yeah, the $7 million costing console.
Woo!
Well, they were just
How
like,
much does that shit cost?
I saw an ad that was like $50 off the PS5, and it's like, that's still $400.
Yeah, $400 is, it's doable. I don't
Yeah,
know.
not for me.
It just seems like a whole fucking thing I used to have. The last console I had was an Xbox 360 when I was young, and I sold it so I could try and buy a guitar.
Okay.
And that was a good decision because I get too addicted to stuff. And now I just have a fucking phone, which is a tiny console, and it fucks up my life.
Oh, it's crazy how, like, the thing is, I get into video games like once every 6 months, and then it absorbs my life. My writing gets so much worse.
Yeah.
It gets so much worse.
Yes.
I'm not reading as much as I should be.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm just like, well, the video games I'm playing, you read a lot in them. It doesn't feel as satisfying. You aren't as attentive to it, the writing.
No. Yeah,
And
when
there's
you're
only really like 2 games that have writing that's on the level of just a good book.
And even then, I guess, like, my issue, and I think this is just my own pretension for video games, is why I can't enjoy them as much as maybe I could. But it's like, I feel like if there's really great writing in a video game, it's like, I feel like I'm not going to be able to appreciate it as much as if it was in, like, a book. Because if it's in a game, now it just seems more like, just like, entertainment, like shooting me in the face. Where I like a book because it's an active hobby. Like, books are not, it's not a passive act at all. Like, you have to think about that and, all that stuff. And that's why it makes the writing so much better. If you try and live, like, kind of an analog life of, like, I read a lot and write a lot, then it's all just up here.
Yeah.
And then it gets stronger and you're more entertained by it. But, yeah, that's a problem. It's like, I've been a little better at writing lately, but, like, if
you aren't reading, writing is so fucking, it's bullshit.
It's harder. I mean, I guess a lot of comedians I know don't read, so I guess they get it in somehow. I mean, you're just walking around taking it in.
Yeah.
I think the only thing is, like, you don't necessarily have to read, but don't be, like, shot full of Instagram and shit all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Because that really fucks you up. It makes you think differently. Because it's like sometimes you see, I don't know, I see it in myself, is like sometimes you're on Instagram too much and you have this whole conception of the world based off of Instagram and you're like way too into comedy and shit. And then you get on stage and audiences are just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Oh, speaking of the internet, do you think porn has made more people into cuckolds than were before?
Definitely, just because porn enlightened a lot of people to fetishes they didn't know they were into.
But I mean, like, because it's a very, you're the guy watching 2 people have sex. Do you think it can fuck up your brain to the point you're just like, yeah, I want to get a girlfriend and then to watch her suck another guy's dick? Because you're only able to experience sexual pleasure through the porn.
I see where you're going, but I think when it comes to actually applying that, it's like a pretty big leap to the point that if you're doing it, I think you wanted to do it anyway.
Yeah, but it goes back to what you said
maybe
about...
the porn kind of pushed you to it, definitely.
Oh, okay.
But, like, I don't ever want that to happen, and I think I could watch porn my whole life, and I wouldn't ever be like, yeah.
But I don't know.
I mean, it would...
I feel like if you live in a certain If you live in like a certain situation where people are into like ethical non-monogamy, which like we know like one guy that's into that shit.
Yeah.
But if like everybody you know is into that, and also you watch a fuck ton of porn because you think it's like enlightened and shit,
Yeah.
then eventually you can probably make the leap to I want to have a girlfriend that gets fucked in the ass and then comes home and tells me about it while I jack off.
Yeah, I mean, if you really don't like feel that kind of whatever possession or whatever you want to call it with your partner,
You mean like?
then I guess you'd just be like, she's so hot, I'd love to see her get fucked.
Oh,
But
yeah.
for me, there's so many leaps and bounds before that, you know. It's just like, well, it's like, yeah, she's hot, but if I see her get fucked by another guy, I feel terrible now.
Oh, yeah.
I feel awful. I think it's very interesting. I was telling a joke about cucking, just how I think cucking's funny because it's like one step away from fucking tragic.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's either
it's
very
one...
it's like it's either very fun and kinky or it's like the saddest thing in the world.
Well,
and that can change in a guy's head. I'm sure that's happened to a lot of guys that like try it out and then they're like, holy shit, I can't.
Well, they come and then they're just watching a guy just rail their girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like dripping down your leg, and then you're just like, oh, I have to watch them finish now.
Oh God. What if you really gotta finish after.
Oh, yeah.
Because fuck, if you come before, now it's not a cuck situation. Now a guy's just fucking. You already can't. There's nothing for you. The whole thing.
Or
really,
you come afterwards, and then you're just like, holy shit! I just watched a guy rail my girlfriend and come on her face.
I don't even. It's really awful.
Oh it's so dark.
I really think cucking is like I hate to kink shame, but I really think it's a horrible thing.
It's like basically it's
terrible.
like underneath. It's only slightly underneath, like watching people getting shit on in terms of vileness.
Yeah, I just don't know.
I would say threesomes are like pretty vile.
Because
I've done some nasty shit, but like I don't know, a threesome seems like a bit much.
I mean, a threesome between three single people is like just a little wild. It's just
I mean when you're in a relationship.
It's like when it's with threesomes at least it's kind of both of you in it together. And I guess it is with cucking. And I know couples are very happy doing it, but it's just
name.
Yeah.
What if we came out as a kink shaming podcast?
I mean,
we were like, we're the booger eating podcast, but while we're eating boogers, we're just like, dude, it's fucked up to be into blood play.
Yeah, so we're just throwing up on the table and then spitting boogers on the table, and we're like, could you imagine letting another man fuck your girlfriend? What a vile life.
Yeah, a man shitting on your girlfriend's face and then coming on it. It's just like, yeah, I'd eat that if it was like not my girlfriend. But if it's my girlfriend, I'm not eating the shitty cum off her face.
We're only in it for the lack of emotional attachment. I don't understand how you could love her so much and still have that happen.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, I mean, it's like if you're like swingers, even to me, that's different. It's like I wouldn't like that either, but it's like maybe like you're like two couples and you swap.
Yeah.
It's like even that sort of makes sense because like you guys like fucking and then you're varying the fucking, and I can see how that could help a relationship if you're comfortable with that. But then when it comes to cucking, it's just like that's such a specific, you just, and so much of the cucking too is like the cuck being also called like a bitch the whole time and like demeaned. And yeah, I always think it's interesting with sexualities where it's like I understand like sort of sub and dom, but it is interesting when a guy's like, yeah, I love when the woman I love and am building a life with fucks another guy and calls me a piece of shit who should kill himself. It's just like
the mother of my children.
It's like, all right, I mean,
tells me how small my dick is in comparison to this other guy that we met on a website.
Like I understand that a lot of childhood trauma can eventually become sexual kinks, and that can almost be a healing way. But sometimes you see stuff like that, and you're like, I don't think you fixed it.
Yeah,
like I think this is. You've kind of settled with this problem, and now you're kind of getting off. And I think you'd be happier if you worked on your problems. And maybe you work on your problems and you still want to see your wife get fucked.
Yeah, well, imagine if somebody was like in a genocide, and so they have all this trauma from that, and they're like, all right, so my sexual fetish, I want to be gangbanged on top of a mass grave.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how like that, affects stuff. I don't know. It's
There's
weird.
like
It's like Japan after World War II, like got a lot of femboys and shit, and like Germany started eating their own shit because they felt bad, and it's like.
Do you think that's
it
why
happens
they
in a
felt
lot
so
of
bad that they're
places.
like, I have to eat my own shit. I need punishment.
I think there's just always like subtle psychological, like you'll just notice a psychological change in a country after a war, and you're kind of like, oh, and like
Do you
America
think
just keeps.
American sex is more violent because of our how often that our country invades other countries to fuck shit up? Because that's why they say school shootings happen. Is it's like a
Yeah.
psychological effect on a nation.
Yeah, we're definitely a more violent country. I think also our sex is just a little more ramped up and detached. We're
Yeah.
like you know that porn star Rocco Siffredi?
Yeah.
So you've seen him fuck?
Hmm?
So he's, he will fuck a lady very hard and crazy,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still like what's almost fucked up about it is he's still like sensual, where he has like his fingers in her mouth, but he's like, "You're gorgeous." It's like it's weird. It's like aggressive and fucked up, but it's still focused on like she's still a focus of it. But then there's like very like rough American porn stars, and what they're good at is just like being a jackhammer.
Yeah.
And then like however that affects the lady, where it's like it's very American to be like, I am just going to exert myself without the thought of how these people feel.
Yeah.
Whereas other countries are more like, I'm gonna fuck you so hard, and like it's almost egotistical. It's very Italian to be like, I'm gonna be like, you're gonna love me after this.
Yeah.
Where it's like still kind of almost selfish in some ways, but it's also even in that selfishness, it leads to them trying to please the woman.
Have
I
you
think
ever
a lot of
seen
Americans don't do that.
Any Max Hardcore? He was so
No,
he
but that
he
sounds
fucked
just
he
like if
fucked
you're
so
watching,
aggressively he got arrested. He got like in trouble.
like during a shoot, they
Yeah.
had those. I
He-
mean, like, yeah, that's
He was I remember one time when I was on acid, I was just like, I need to watch some. We watched Saving Private Ryan, the opening, just to be like, we just wanted to prove we could do it. And then I went upstairs and I was like, I'm gonna watch porn because it's the only thing more fucked up I could think of. And then I put on a Max Hardcore, and there's a video. There was like a thing of him stuffing a lollipop up a woman's pussy, and then he like had her lick it. And then I was like, I have to show the guys downstairs this shit. And I went down and showed them that, and they were like, huh. They thought it was going to show them like some vile shit porn or something, and I was just like, no, look at this. This is crazy.
It's so crazy hearing the ways people do acid. That's like I've been aware of your way of doing acid before, and it's never made sense to me. Where I'm just like, it just sounds scary. Like you're just it's every time you describe like you doing psychedelics, it's just like, yeah, I tortured myself for 6 hours. You really like, I don't know, like.
Well, the darkest stuff I've seen on acid is or mushrooms. It's just been hanging out with a guy who's really fucked up.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff doesn't really affect me so much as it just like being around a guy who sucks ass.
Yeah. Gosh.
I remember I did
I mean,
mushrooms.
you're so good at that. You should go into the woods and try and interrogate your own mind and do the scariest thing possible. You know?
Oh no, I've done that.
Yeah.
I've done acid in or I've done a lot of mushrooms in a cave and then went to hell.
Right.
And then I got info. Like the demons gave me info, and it was pretty effective.
You are the motherfucker to take acid and meet demons instead
Yeah.
of angels, but like still get good advice.
Oh yeah,
What
they
was
gave
the
me
advice?
to read more, and then I should be nicer.
That's what demons are saying?
Yeah. Well, I had to trick them.
How?
Well, I just acted like because I was suffering, and then I was acting like it wasn't shit, and then they were like, "Oh, you understand what's going on? Here's some info," and then they beamed some like symbols into my head.
So it was like real respect real?
Yeah, basically.
Couldn't a Christian say those were angels testing you?
I guess they could say that,
But
but
then
I could
again,
also
it's not
say
really
I
like-
could also say I was on drugs.
It's not really like a test of faith. Like you in the Bible would be weird because like God would tell you to like kill your son, and then you would, I guess, just like tell God to fuck off, or like,
Well, isn't
or you
the
would be
idea-
about to kill him, and God would say don't kill him, and you would just kill your son anyway.
I killed
be an-
myself.
You'd be an odd character. I
Yeah,
think it would
yeah.
like it would seem like you were very faithful, but then you would realize like, oh, this guy's you would just be a biblical outlaw.
Well, isn't that what they say about the story Isaac or whatever, the binding of Isaac, that they were just like that? What's his name? Abraham was just like, I know God's not gonna actually make me kill my son, so I'm gonna do it. And then he was right. Some shit like that.
Probably. I mean, I'd assume he Yeah, he probably said something to the extent of like, "This is a test from the Lord."
Yeah, some shit like that. I mean, they're always into that.
And God.
I was gonna go
wouldn't do
back to
that.
cucking, by the way. I remembered this when I worked at the dealership. There was this guy who was banned because he was stalking one of the women that worked there, and they were talking about him one time, and they're like, you know, that guy's into the what's that thing where you let a guy fuck your wife and then you suck the cum out?
Yeah. You gotta suck the cum out. It's like a banana split with no cherry on top. It's.
Oh yeah, if you're cucking and then you aren't sucking the guy's load out of your wife, what are you doing?
I think it's weird how every small next step in cucking, like it doesn't, like it increases exponentially. You know what I mean? It doesn't just like times 2. Like it really ramps up because I'm sure there are some guys that like just like to watch their wife get fucked.
Yeah.
And then there's guys that like to suck the cum out. And those guys are like 100 times crazier than the first guy. You know?
What's
And
even
then,
crazier than that? Like, what would be crazier than
well,
like sucking the cum out?
I think past
Would it be
that-
like killing yourself?
Well, I think past cuck is just like a full sub for somebody where there are like straight guys that are a sub for like a dominatrix, and then they'll like force them to like get fucked in the ass by them or by another man.
Yeah.
And the guys will like be like, yeah, I'm doing this because I want to sub to her, so I'm going to get fucked by this guy.
I remember I read online one time a guy was talking about that his wife makes him suck off black guys,
Yeah.
and it's like he kept referring to them as the N-word.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, dog, you were like racist and also sucking off black guys. How the hell did that happen?
Well, it's probably because he's a racist cuck.
Yeah.
So he's like, what's the most demeaning thing I could do is suck a black guy's dick?
Yeah.
Oh, God. To be a cuck and to be racist. It's just like, how do you open your mind to that, but not to not being racist? Like, it's just so odd.
I feel like you go far enough into fascism that you like end up with those sorts of sexual pathologies.
You also just got to be careful being a cuck because if you break up, now you're just a sub.
Yeah.
Now you got no girlfriend and you're just a guy that likes
Well, if you
being
break up
demeaned.
with your girlfriend, like, and you were a cuck, that's like the ultimate cuck because you know she's fucking other guys now.
I'm such a cuck.
Yeah.
I'm gonna break up with you so you're not even my girlfriend. So I have to watch you get married.
Yeah.
And I want you to
He's
invite.
jacking off to wedding photos.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, I bet he's fucking her good.
Yeah, you get kicked out of the wedding because you're jacking off. Or because,
Anybody, it's like, anybody have any words before they get married? And the guy stands up, he's like, I'm jacking off right now.
Yeah. Does anyone object? I don't. I'm actually jacking off. And everybody's like, isn't that her ex-boyfriend?
He's got the flowers up his ass.
But really, he's the guy she loves the most. What? God, that would suck. Could you imagine if like you were dating a girl and then she was like, I'm still in love with my ex-boyfriend, and you find out that her ex-boyfriend was a cuck, and you're just like, what? You just like getting fucked? Like, what the fuck? The guy that watched you get fucked was better than me? You're not even giving credit to the guys that fucked you.
Yeah, well, what if even worse if you find out that, like, her ex-boyfriend is a guy who like took a shit on her? It's like, is that what the problem is? I need to be taking a shit on you? Have you ever peed on somebody?
One time in a shower.
I tried to pee and just couldn't. Like, I remember last time I went to pee on somebody, it couldn't come out. Like,
You got nervous.
I guess so. I was pee shy.
Yeah, you had to close your eyes and whisper countdown slowly to yourself, and then it's not hot anymore.
Yeah, now I'm just doing math in my head.
Yeah. You shouldn't pee on a person's face, but you can give them the last shake of the drops.
Oh,
That's fair. You can do that. No, I don't know. It's fine. It's one of those things that's like, it kind of, half of it is like not sexual because it's just a bodily function, which I guess is what gets people off.
Oh yeah.
I don't
Oh
know.
shit! I got sent a fucking the second podcast episode. Hell yeah!
I started sending it. Boom, boom.
Hell
I think
yeah.
honestly the thing is like, I think whatever. If people are happy being cucks, they're happy being cucks.
If
and
people want to
that's-
be shit on, if they want to watch
Good
their
for them.
girlfriend get fucked, if you like want to be fisted, have you ever fisted?
No.
It's like doesn't start getting weird till like the fourth,
Yeah, I don't really have it. I don't really have interest in
the fourth
fisting.
finger.
But I don't know. I also
Sometimes
feel
you're just like I want to do everything.
sometimes when it comes to bringing other people into the bedroom, whatever way you're talking about, sometimes I think it's a bit of a cop-out.
Mm-hmm.
Because when a couple brings somebody else into the bedroom, whether it's a cuck, a threesome, a polyamor, whatever it is, it's kind of like, have you guys explored all options?
Yeah.
Like, have you bought things? You know what I mean? Have you bought, like, a leash?
It's
or like, have you really gone? Because you can do a lot with just you two. It's kind of like it's like a country that's not using its own resources. It's like a country that's like full of natural gas, but it's like buying it from another country.
I was gonna say about the threesome thing. You're kind of like using another person as a sex toy in that situation. They're like, it's like a butt plug. Because you're supposed to fuck your partner. You're supposed to focus on them and then also kind of fuck the other person, but not to the same extent. That's what people say about threesomes. But it's like, oh, then that person's just kind of a tool.
Yeah, I think that's why it's like it only works when people are up front. You just have to find like somebody that's like at a point in their life where like, yeah, I just like to fuck. And they're like, whatever, like I'd rather do it with a nice couple. But you're definitely kind of using them, but they're also using you. But it's like,
oh, for sure.
The word using kind of gets a little softer when people are actually open and honest about the conversation, and then it's not gross.
Damn, I'm learning so much about sexual health right now.
You have to.
Yeah, you have to learn about it.
You have to. But yeah, I don't know. People are definitely getting like way too into sex and their sexuality.
It's pretty dorky.
Yeah, it's dorky. Like, I was on that app Field for a little.
Yuck.
Which is like for like kinky people
or
whatever, but they're not kink. They're just a bunch of nerds that love acronyms. And it's just sort of like, you get to a point where you're like, if you put a penis in a vagina or an asshole, you'll come.
Yeah.
And if the guy with the penis or the person with the penis is being nice enough, they'll hopefully make you come too.
Mm-hmm.
If not with their penis, then with their mouth. Like, what are we really doing here? With all this shit. And there's also so many people that have so many rules. Like, I think it's always interesting to me when people are like, I'm a dom. Don't talk to me if you're not blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And it's like, I get it. You know, you figure out what you want and blah, blah, blah. But it's just sort of like, you see people doing that and you're like, you're treating this like a job. How much fucking time? And some of it is, sometimes they're dominatrix and that is a job. But like with other people, they're just so like specific and shit.
A guy dom is just like it's a nice way of being like, I like to hit women.
Yeah, I think it's really weird when a straight guy is like, I'm a dom.
That's your thing?
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay.
Okay, sometimes you end up in situations where you are.
Totally.
That's not your fucking, that shouldn't be your fucking title, is
No.
the guy who puts women's heads in the toilet.
No, I've like played the role and I enjoy it with people that want it from me and whatever. I think it's very weird when people always advertise themselves. It's like, I'm a dom. It's like, oh, so you're a straight guy that's really into having total and complete control of like a woman in a situation. What a crazy new idea. It's like that's the thing with a lot of these people. And like there's this thing on like Grindr. It's like big in just like the queer community where like the hottest, skinniest men and like very hot trans women are all like generous, they call themselves, which just means you have to pay to fuck me, but they call it generous. And it's sort of like a sugar baby thing, but it's just like they kind of act like it's like a thing about them.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, that's something I'm into.
Yeah.
It's like, I only fuck people I want to fuck, but you have to pay me. And I'm just like, okay, so you have a worm in your brain.
Yeah.
Where now you can't detach sex from money. And that, like, it just, any sex has to be a transaction. It's like, I don't know, the amount of people that are just like, it's gone from like trying stuff out or whatever to just being like, yeah, so this is like my personality type. Is I'm a person that every time I fuck, I like to get paid. And be like, yeah, it would be great if I got $100 every time I put my dick in something. But what the fuck is wrong with you? It's like, why are you toxifying every single normal situation? Fucking is like the last free, it's the only transaction that costs no money. There's no supply. You have it. You have a dick or you have a pussy or whatever. You have everything there. There's no, what am I paying for?
Yeah.
Just the way you feel about this? The way I'm paying for the fact that you don't like me? The fuck?
It's funny we grossed ourselves into being a sex podcast.
Yeah. I mean, you know.
I mean, that's how it always goes. You start off as being like, I'm going to do a dirty podcast, and then it's just like, what's the deal? What do you mean you take money for sex? You dumb bitch?
No, I don't
You
think
just gross yourself into hating people?
I don't look down on people who are just, it's their fucking job.
Yeah.
And they're a sex worker, and they're like, yeah, if you want to have sex with me, this is what I charge. It's weird when people...
I look down on,
I don't like when people
rich
like,
sex workers.
I don't like... Okay, we can get to that. I don't agree. But it's like, I don't like when people are like, you can fuck me, you just gotta buy me something or split. It's like, stop with you're either gonna fuck me because you want to fuck me, or you're a sex worker. I'm not doing this in the middle shit.
Yeah,
where it's like, oh, I want to hang out with you, and like, but you have to pay me to be there. It's like, well, then this is a transaction, and it's fine, but just be upfront about that. This whole thing of like, I was talking to this one insane guy that was like, it's an honor to spend time with me, and I was like, you're 22, like you're an idiot. It's a fucking 22-year-old model, and I was like. It's the most self-centered person I've ever met. That was literally like, any time I spend with you is worth money.
Jesus.
Why don't you like rich?
Well,
sex
I just don't like
workers?
people that were born rich and then they're just like, I'm gonna supplement my income by posting my pussy online or something. Pussy or dick.
Yeah,
it feels like
odd to me.
Yeah, it feels like it's like it's missing the point of sex work. You know?
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe we are. Like, because
maybe we
I think the reason you think that, and maybe I see what you're saying, is like because our perception is that sex work
is demeaning
or bad. So if you already have money, why would you lower yourself? But
Yeah,
if they don't care about the constructs of that, or they don't have the same thoughts about that, then it's not demeaning.
But
then
I don't
it's just
think it's
another
necessarily
way to make money.
demeaning if you're like a poor homeless person. I feel like
I think that's just work. Yeah.
yeah.
But I think I don't know how common this is, but I think like, sex work being talked about a lot of people just want to be in on the conversation.
Yeah.
But also the thing is like, no matter how much money you have, if you're hot, OnlyFans is just such an easy way to have more money.
Yeah.
And the thing is, even if you're rich, even if you get parents' money, you can still go, oh, well, I'll start this OnlyFans, and then I'll have like $2,000 extra a month.
Oh, yeah.
Or, who knows how big it could get. So it's like, even with my parents' money, I still got this other shit. Like, especially to rich people and really anybody, there's never enough money. So
yeah, I guess it's
just
true.
like,
yeah.
It does. I get what you mean. Where it's just like, why are you?
Some things I
doing
think
that?
do need to be sacred when it comes to like capital.
What do you mean?
Well, I just don't think like your body needs to be a commodity. I don't think every part of your life should be a commodity. In fact, most parts of your life shouldn't.
I think you should strive to really only have one part of your life that is making money.
Oh,
And
exactly.
It should just be your job, and you should try and have your job be a passion. But
Yeah.
yeah. The whole thing of, I mean, it's just it's honestly just a product of like, I think I'm getting moved over a little out of frame.
Yeah, for
I don't
sure.
know.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think it's just a product of
It
like.
would suck if we recorded this and we were just out of frame.
No, I think it's just like it's so hard to get a job, even for people with degrees, that it's just like, well,
lot of
it's
times they
so
gotta-
hard to get a
Yeah.
fucking job anyway, and nothing fucking matters. And like, we live in such a different world now. Whatever, I need money. I'll just show my face and
Yeah, I
ass
mean,
or
all your
whatever.
philosophies and morals and shit, we've gotten to a point where they don't really matter because everything's been taken over by making money.
Yeah, well, it's very rude, I think, for people to be like, how dare you demean yourself? Because
Yeah.
it's like, well, look at the current job market.
Well,
and-
everything
and
demeans you.
Yeah, and any job is really demeaning. I mean, that's
Yeah.
a pretty valid argument almost every sex worker says. Is like, you sit in a fucking office all day and get talked shit to by some guy you don't even respect.
Well,
I
you're
work
still-
half the time
yeah,
and
yeah.
make triple the money.
You're also like, I mean, your body's getting taken advantage of no matter what job you're doing. If you're doing
Yeah.
manual labor,
Yeah,
And
that's even worse.
yeah.
You
And
know?
it's like all jobs are bad. Every single job is
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is.
I like that we're going into the middle of like, no one could really pinpoint a point of view to this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's looking like, that's fucked up. And then we say another thing, they're like, maybe?
I mean,
Maybe
that's the
they're not
hope. I don't want anybody to come out with any understanding of how we think.
Oh, yeah,
But-
absolutely. Because we don't think in any actual way. That's why we do stand up, which is just a combination of differing, often contradictory points of view.
I also don't. I also can't judge any sex worker because I'll go on Grindr, and if you ask to see my penis, I'll show you. I mean, my face isn't in the picture. I really don't have any pretensions really about showing my body. I can understand it in that way a lot. The only reason the main stopper is honestly just doing stand up. Is I think it would sort of change people's perception of me in an odd way if a man had a OnlyFans where he was jacking his dick and fucking his ass. I think already. There's a lot of pretension in comedy already, and I think people might start treating me differently.
So I did a stand-up thing where they were voting over which of the three stand-ups got to be naked.
Right.
And I ended up tying with the other guy. And to be honest, I was kind of like, well, because I had somebody recording there, I was like, if I do this naked, I could post a whole set on OnlyFans and maybe make some money by just being like, check out these jokes naked. You know?
Yeah, you can
So
also-
it's like no matter what, I'm still like I'm not above any fucking sex worker.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fucking funny for any comedian or guys like us who aren't even professional comedians.
Oh
Like,
yeah, to
want-
just
for
be
a-
like,
for a-
let's tap into this novelty of what if stand up was naked, which isn't even novel anymore.
Yeah, but just I mean, I was just gonna say it's just so funny for like us as wannabe comedian open micers to be like, yeah, how could you show your body online? It's like we're trying to write jokes
Yeah.
that suck to make people like we're whoring ourselves out. Anybody in
yeah.
entertainment has no right to.
Oh
look
yeah,
down on
we're
sex
just
workers.
we're pornographicing, pornicizing our thoughts.
Yeah.
We're just like, let's throw some thoughts out and see if these motherfuckers it makes them laugh.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
And then we change our thoughts based on what's funniest.
I'm shitting on the guy on Grindr for saying it's an honor to spend time with him, and I'm trying to make it a business to pretend to spend time with us.
Oh
So,
yeah.
Yeah, everybody's a fucking asshole. Like,
Yeah, everyone's an asshole. Everyone's a whore. That's why we should burn books and wipe our boogers on them.
Literally everybody kind of sucks.
Yeah.
It's just insane. Like, especially if you're like a construction worker, to be like, you think can you imagine those ladies showing their pussy online, not working for it? And it's like, dude, you can't move your right hand. Like, you can't play catch with your son, and you're calling her an idiot. It's like she's gonna retire at 35. Or
Well,
it's like
we're
she's
just
gonna
mad that we weren't born hot women who could show our pussies.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was born a hot woman who could show my fucking pussy,
I think that's really the gripe a lot of guys have is they're like, it's so unfair. And you're like, well, I've talked about this before on this podcast, but it's like you've objectified women so much, so you've actually set the price of this commodity.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't women who set the price of their own bodies. It was men lusting after them. And then the second they sell it and make their own money,
we're pissed.
The second, like Hugh Hefner was literally making money off bodies that weren't his.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, that guy's sick.
And then he turned out to be a fucking...
He's a rape. He's a piece
rapist.
of shit. And it's like, and then like women have the gall to just do it themselves, and people are like, you're a whore. And it's like,
it's so funny
so it was better when a guy was a fucking slave driver of big titted women.
Yeah.
Like that's what you thought was a better world.
Did you watch Quiet on Set?
No, I lived it.
Yeah,
What's it about?
It's about like the Nickelodeon abuses.
I
it's
know
mostly
about Dan Schneider. And
Yeah. It is
fucked
funny
them all.
because there's a lot of like explicitly pornographic shit. Not explicitly, but it's like it's like stuff's landed on these like 15-year-old girls' faces that looks like cum shots and stuff.
Slime.
Yeah, not slime, but like there's like gags in there.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, this fat, ugly motherfucker is making money off of sexualizing these 14-year-olds.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like actors looking down on sex workers is funny because it's like you get
child
groped
stars,
for 15 years just to be in fucking Forrest Gump, you know?
Yeah,
It's like,
child
what the fuck?
stars are basically sex workers.
Well, when the entire industry is populated by pedophiles, it's kind of what you end up with.
Oh, yeah.
They wouldn't be if it was populated just by fucking regular people. Who are like, yeah, kids need TV shows. Also, don't fuck the kids. But that's taken about 60 years to even be discussed.
It's still yeah.
We haven't fixed it at all, but it's being talked about.
You know what? The only people that were talking about it is like 20 years ago. It was people online with the blind item shit being like, you know, this Nickelodeon star likes to put lamps up Drake Bell's ass.
And
it's
everybody's like, what?
This is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
And now we have a documentary being like, yeah, Drake Bell was killed for 3 hours and they had sex with him and then they brought him back to life.
It's also crazy because it's like people idolize stars, but then when they talk about their own struggle, everybody's like, shut up, you're rich.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Like, Amanda Bynes talked about this a long time ago where she was like, the Amanda show is insane. Me and Drake would fuck backstage, which is not illegal, but also it's like, why are kids being left unsupervised on a film set? You know?
Yeah.
And then it's like when they are supervised, they're getting fucked by Dan Schneider. And it's like, she was saying all this and like, she's really, you know, been pretty open about a lot of mental trauma she has, but everybody's just like, anytime you bring up Amanda Bynes, you're like, oh, she's crazy now.
Yeah.
And it's because she has a face tattoo, and now she's trying to get her manicure license, and she's trying to live a fucking normal life. And she's obviously a person that's been through a lot, but everybody's just like, yeah, she is nuts.
Yeah,
and it's like, yeah, because we let her get fucked on camera for 90 years. Like, what are you talking about?
I was starting to think about shows that I loved as a kid, like Malcolm in the Middle, of just being like, damn, all those kids were getting molested. Like the kid who played Dewey is like one of the most talented kids I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And he's on nothing. He's been on like nothing notable since then. It's like it's 100% because somebody was jacking off on his face.
Well, also, yeah, and then
You think Bryan Cranston was like tapping that?
No.
Maybe.
I don't think Bryan Cranston is
Maybe
a
he
bad
was.
person.
Maybe
I've never
he
heard
was.
anything bad about Bryan Cranston.
I mean, we're not.
Don't put that on Bryan. Listen.
All right, we don't think Bryan Cranston was tapping dad ass.
I assumed this podcast was pro Bryan Cranston. He has a lot of things to say on and off screen, and I really enjoy his.
He seems like a good guy.
Have you seen him in interviews?
Yeah, he seems like a good guy.
He's very cool. It's great to listen to if you're a fucking loser like us who wants to be in entertainment. He talks about all that shit.
That's so funny for us to be like, we're going to be in entertainment. Also, you think Bryan Cranston was a pedophile?
Yeah, I mean, really, not to idolize a star too much, but I honestly think Bryan Cranston is like a good guy. I think he's like a nice person.
Dude, it would be so crazy if it came out he was a pedophile, and then we were like the only people who talked about it at all, and then, but the whole time we're just been going, no, we're just kidding. And then people are like, look, they knew.
What if, like, he was, and then us saying we're just kidding years before actually reversed the case and let him free, and then we became, like, these horrible liberators of an awful man? That is funny because it's, like, it is funny if you accidentally predict something. Because then you're, like, it's very funny what happened to Hannibal Buress. Where, I mean, I guess he wasn't predicting, he was just kind of saying it, but then people were like, fuck you, and he's just like, listen, like, I don't.
Yeah, there's, as far as you know, no case against Bryan Cranston.
It would
totally innocent.
It would be so funny to get, like, just because we were early saying it, like, we're still a completely unsuccessful podcast, but we get caught in the midst of, like, an international pedophile scandal where it's like Bryan Cranston's working with, like, the FBI to, like, funnel kids to Brazil. I mean, I've said
like
Drake
the Dagnabbit boys predicted this.
Yeah. We could become a journalist podcast.
Yeah.
That would be so funny if, like, we accidentally predicted something and then people started, like, citing us and, like, trying, like all these, like, reaction videos about how we're inaccurate.
Yeah, it's like the Dagnabbit boys, aka Outspoken Outlaws.
Yeah, it's like, so first off, I have a lot of issues. They call themselves outlaws. They also say that a healthy diet is comprised of piss, shit, and boogers. And then they show like a medical source from the board of fucking gay ass doctors.
Yeah. Boogers are actually not that good for you. Shit and piss, pretty good for you. But don't be eating boogers.
That would be funny if that's what, like, people were mad at Joe Rogan for. Like, it wasn't any of, like, the vaccine or, like, historical inaccuracies he's talked about. But
If Fauci came on and was like, you have to eat boogers if you want to survive COVID.
Joe's just on the podcast like, yeah, I've been eating so many boogers a day, and everybody's like, he's killing America.
Did you scramble boogers like eggs?
Man, it would be so sick if everybody in the world heard this podcast. Because statistically, if everybody in the world hears any podcast, it will just start a humongous fight. Like, no matter what the podcast is about. Like, we could release a whole hour of just talking about piss, shit, and boogers, and if somehow 8 billion people listen to it, there would be 3 billion that would say we should, like, be arrested.
Yeah, there'd be a couple billion that were like, we don't speak English.
Yeah.
It would be, we don't understand
They'd
this.
hate it. They would hate it. I mean, yeah, it would be tough, to reach everybody. I don't know how we would get it to, like, the Inuit peoples.
We could do an episode on snow.
What if because I was watching some videos on, like, Arctic expeditions and people trying to get to the North Pole first, and now, like, we have a lot of great ships that can do it, but what if we took, like, a 12-month journey on, like, an ice-breaking ship up to the North Pole to go contact, I mean, they've already been contacted tons of times, but to go give our podcast to the Inuit tribes.
Oh, yeah.
In a way that they could hear it. We
give them, like, an iPod shuffle.
Okay, how about this? Instead of trying to get our podcast to millions of people, we just try and get it to the farthest corners of the earth. So, like, we fly over an island that's, like, one of those uncontacted tribes that, like, shoots arrows at you, and we just drop, like, tons of speakers.
What if we start a war? Podcast. What if we start a war in Africa because one tribe is pro Cooper and one tribe is pro me?
Okay, so we do, like, some kind of some CIA kind of, like, propaganda.
Yeah,
like,
that'll get the podcast all over.
Start fake protests. What if we disrupt an election by getting our podcast into the ears of, like, Bangladeshi kids?
Yeah, and they're like voting for boogers and shit.
It would be very funny if, just our podcast just keeps getting, like, 16 views, but
we got 22.
We got 39.
We did.
But, yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
But that would be funny if like one day we look and we have like 1 million views and it's just like in India, and then you go on CNN and it's just like horrible, disgusting podcast has thrown India into peril. We just
They're tearing down statues of Gandhi because of our podcast.
I would be really upset if our podcast made China invade Taiwan. Because everybody would be so mad at us.
But how cool would it be if our podcast like made Israel like be like, we gotta chill with the Palestine stuff?
I'd like that.
That'd be good if Booger Podcasts made the fucking them be like, I think we've gone too far.
It would be such good
or
press.
what if we made Israel way worse because of when I said you have to admit Israel are cowboys?
Yeah.
They're walking around with cowboy hats and shit with Dagnabbit Boy stickers on.
Yeah, if I'm being completely honest, I don't think anything we've said is going to help any of the Gazan people. You know, it's going to be tough. It's a tough area.
What if we travel to Gaza and then give them iPod shuffles loaded with the episodes?
I think we should do a live podcast. That is, I'll be on one side in Gaza with the leader of Hamas, and then you'll be on the other side in Israel with Netanyahu.
Yeah.
And we'll just do like a live peace agreement talk where it's like, have you ever eaten your own boogers? And then they each say yes, and we're like, so maybe we're not so different, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe, how about this? The way we solve the situation over there is we go over there and we are so disgusting.
Yeah.
We're throwing up. We're shitting our pants.
They invade America.
Yeah. We pour oil on our asses and light it on fire and then shit, and the diarrhea becomes a fire shit that we eat and it burns our throats and we start bleeding. But just so the point that like
we just rub oil over a dog and fuck it.
Yeah. So just so like Hamas and the IDF are like, these are the true, most vile people in the world who should be wiped out at all costs. And then we just run around the world recording the podcast.
We get a piece of paper that says, I love being a terrorist, and shove it up our pee holes.
Yeah, yeah. And
they're like, those are the terrorists.
And nobody likes that. Nobody likes if you sound with a piece of paper that says, I like being a terrorist. People don't even like it when you write that on a piece of paper, let alone put it in your dick. Yeah, that's honestly, if I was the president of the United States, when everything popped off on October 7th, just to confuse people and calm everything down, I would just go on.
Here's my take? I think it started on October 6th.
Okay, that's what's up.
Yeah.
But if I was Joe Biden, I would go up there and I would just be like, I like taking a big poop in my pants and taking it out, big glob, rubbing half of it on my face and the other half on my dog's face and fucking my dog in the mouth and then coming in the mouth and then mixing the cum and shit together and then putting it in my mouth and then sucking the dog's dick when my mouth is full of the shit and cum and then getting that dog's cum and then spitting it in Jill's face. Imagine if he just went out and said all that and the press, like, you hear the camera stop taking pictures.
Yeah.
And like they just don't ask any questions, and it just becomes like this weird thing where they can't, like, Israel can't even focus on Hamas anymore because the entire world is like, America has a president that's saying he pisses in his dog's mouth and then comes in it and then shits in the mouth and then eats it
and then spits it on his wife's face.
Yeah,
then digs up his dead son and has sex with the body.
Yeah,
then gives one of the bones to the dog.
Yeah, he gives his dead son's bones to his dog so it can eat it and shit it out, and then he can eat
and then
his
he
dead
fucks
son.
the shit.
He fucks the shit that's made of his dead son's bones. I think that would get a bigger response. That would definitely get a bigger response.
He's like...
He's
just shitting all over the graves and the kids who died at Sandy Hook while he sucks off the dog.
Yeah. I think that would get a bigger response than Putin invading Ukraine. I think literally, like, the UN would step in.
What if that started a civil war?
Yeah, like, how gross can a president be before it becomes, like, an international problem? And I think, honestly, one speech where you say that, like, all of a sudden, nuclear warheads will be armed. Like, I think if Biden came out and said that he eats his dog shit that's made of his dead son's bones, that China would, like, wage a all-out war in the South China Sea and just start taking over. Like, they would just use it to take... Like, I think if Biden said that, it would prompt China to take Taiwan. They would just be like, nobody gives a fuck anymore, and just go for it. I would love that.
If Biden tried to shoot himself like this, the Secret Service agent have to jump in front of it?
He would have to do that, yeah. And then Biden would be arrested for trying to kill the president. There's no rule that you can't kill it. It's super illegal
What
to
about
kill
Russian
yourself.
roulette, though? So you don't even know if the bullet's going towards the
You
president.
should not play Russian roulette if you're the president of the United States. You should not.
No
do
matter
that
how
at
fun
all.
it seems.
Man,
The President Joe Biden was talking about sucking God's ass while putting a gun up against his head.
that would have been cool. I think that could beat any debate. Like if Trump was like, Biden's an idiot, and then he was like, I like to eat piss and shit. Shit it out, go to my son's grave, open up the coffin, shove piss, shit, and cum in his dead mouth. And everybody would just be like, what the fuck? There's no way, like, it's not like Trump could come back and be like, you're an idiot. You can't just say that to what he just
Trump
said.
would have to top it.
Yeah, Trump would be like, I also eat piss and that would be very funny to see. Like, what,
Trump would just be like, I dug up John Benet Ramsey and mixed the bones up with your son's bones.
Yeah,
and
what can
had to
you-
jerk off on it and
can
then
you get
ate it.
Can you get Trump to say anything if you just are one-upping him with it? Just to be like, I actually went to 9/11 the next day and looked for dead bodies to fuck and put cum in and then suck the cum out of the dead body at 9/11. I did that. You just make them
Very small
implode.
bodies.
Very.
The bodies were very short.
There were small people in those buildings. They were very big, but the reason a lot of people died is because they were very small. Half of the people in those buildings were dwarves, and I ate them.
The other half were under 5'9".
I eat people. I like to eat people. I'm telling you. I'll do it again.
You seen the videos of the meat underneath, like the World Trade Center when it collapsed?
Yeah.
Like, so fucking Donald Trump is there jerking off on
Yeah.
the meat and then stuffing some up his ass. He's like, I can tell these are short people.
I walked up to Ground Zero the day after, and I said, this is a great restaurant. And I just started eating as many people as I could. I started munching into the victims of 9/11 in front of their families, pissing and shitting as I went. That would be great.
This is the sort of podcast I can get behind.
Yeah, honestly, if you want to know our point of view, that's what the fuck it is.
Yeah. If any sex workers died on 9/11, Donald Trump would eat your body.
Yeah, and we don't agree with that.
Yeah, we hate that shit.
All right, we should probably stop now so we don't keep going because somebody told us to stop.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But
Yeah, I feel like that was good.
get fucked, kill yourself.
Fuck you. I'm gonna beat your ass if you're watching this. I find out you watch this shit, I'm gonna kill you. Me and Cooper are the worst, most sucker MCs in the world. We have bad breath, we smell bad, and everybody that we've dated cheats on us because we're not good partners. We have bad teeth and they're rotting, and we're poor, and we come from a bad family, and there's photos of our girlfriends sucking other guys' dicks.